oil is priced like it should be. Recycling not available in California.
Governor Baker proposes legislation to make it easier for people to obtain a life-saving drug. I'm Taylor Cormier for WBSM News. 46 degrees, partly cloudy skies. Getting increasingly cloudy today. We'll check the forecast from ABC6 coming up in just a few moments. The news at noon is brought to you by Subway. Here's what's happening. Governor Charlie Baker wants states to have the flexibility to make the overdose-reversing drug naloxone available over the counter to help stem the nation's opioid overdose epidemic. Naloxone is the generic name for the more popularly known Narcan. The governor plans to deliver letters to Attorney General Jeff Sessions and the Acting Secretary of Health and Human Services today, requesting the change. The letters follow Baker's unveiling of a new bill Tuesday that he says will ramp up the state's battle against an opioid crisis, that has claimed thousands of lives in Massachusetts. Among other steps, the bill would create a commission to recommend standards for the credentialing of recovery coaches. State health officials announced Monday the number of overdose deaths in the first 9 months of the year fell 10% compared to the same period in 2016. After taking a tour of New Bedford's various courts several years ago, State Representative Antonio Cabral set out to find a way to update the outdated buildings. Representative Cabral announced Tuesday that the House Ways and Means Committee passed a bond authorization bill, which includes $123.5 million for a regional justice center to be located in New Bedford. Cabral tells WBSM News the Justice Center would bring all of New Bedford's court needs under one roof instead of having them spread out across the city, that is.
I mean, the housing court right now is on a strip mall in the north end. I think they've done a good job of maintaining the court there on that particular place. But I think savings-wise, it's not very efficient for the state to be running 4 or 5 buildings rather than one building.
Cabral says centralizing New Bedford's court systems will not only save the state money, but will boost the local economy through construction jobs and increased foot traffic through the city's downtown. The bill moves to the Senate for debate. A bill that supporters say will protect birth control coverage for women is one step closer to becoming law in Massachusetts. The Massachusetts Senate overwhelmingly passed the bill Tuesday. The measure includes a provision requiring health insurers to continue offering coverage without co-payments for prescription contraceptives, regardless of changes in federal policy or any future repeal of the Affordable Care Act. President Donald Trump issued an executive order last month that would allow employers to opt out of providing birth control coverage by claiming religious or moral objections. The legislation also mandates coverage for over-the-counter emergency contraceptives without a doctor's prescription. And Mattapoisett firefighters were joined by crews from 3 other towns Tuesday morning to battle a house fire at 28 Meadowbrook Lane. The fire caused about $300,000 in damages. Although the cause of the fire remains under investigation, Mattapoisett Fire Chief Andrew Murray tells WBSM News it's the second structure fire his department has battled in the last 5 days. With the cooler weather and people turning on the heat or lighting a fire, that is, for the first time this season, Chief Murray says all residents need to be extra vigilant.
My advice to people is check your heating systems, have your chimneys inspected and cleaned. Don't run extension cords outside that are supposed to be on the inside, and be safe and try to be aware of your surroundings and all the hazards.
Tuesday morning's fire call came in around 6:47 a.m. It took about 30 minutes to knock down, and several hours after that, battling hot spots. Chief Murray says crews were brought in from Fairhaven, Marion, and Rochester to help battle the blaze, as the nearest hydrant was over 2 miles away and water had to be shuttled to the scene.
This is a Bloomberg Market Minute. About a volatility sweeping into the markets as equities are dropping around the world. Energy shares weighing on the markets. Turning to the economy, retail sales data signaling strong demand from consumers as we head into the holiday season. Meantime, consumer prices picked up for the first time since January. The 5th round of NAFTA talks getting underway in Mexico City. The last session broke up a month ago and highlighted the big differences between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. The new round may result in deals on smaller issues. Negotiators aren't expected to spend much time on high-profile U.S. demands concerning dairy and cars. Ford says the small SUV market is becoming more competitive. Sharp discounting putting pressure on prices. Small SUVs have been one of the fastest-growing vehicle categories in the U.S., and a flawless 163-carat clear diamond fetched $34 million at Christie's. The stone was the largest of its kind ever auctioned. Courtney Donahoe, Bloomberg Radio.
WBSM Sports, the Bruins are in Anaheim tonight to begin a 4-game road trip against the Ducks, and the Celtics host Stephen Curry and the defending champion Warriors tomorrow.
A mix of sun and clouds this afternoon. Still cool today, highs topping out in the mid to upper 40s. We continue to see increasing clouds overnight. Temperatures drop down into the 30s. Tomorrow we start the day rain-free, but with a lot of clouds, and by late morning, rain does move into the area. We continue to see rain through the afternoon and evening, and some of that rain may be heavy at times. Highs tomorrow near 50. From the ABC 6 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chelsea Priest on New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM.
46 degrees in New Bedford. I'm Taylor Cormier for WBSM News. Once again, the news at noon brought to you by Subway. We update news throughout the day right here on New Bedford's News Talk Station, 1420 WBSM, and online at WBSM.com.
All right, welcome to our program. It is a Wednesday afternoon. We got about 10 minutes after 12 noon, some sun shining. Breaking through the clouds out there. Some rain on the way tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on that for you with the ABC 6 Weather Center, and we'll bring you the latest forecast throughout the day, of course, right at the top of the hour. It is a Wednesday. That means it's midweek with the mayor. The mayor is out in the hallway talking to somebody, and he's not in here yet, so he will be in here in just a couple of moments. We'll talk to him. You can call in as well, 508-996-0500. And we're doing something a little bit different today. We are up on YouTube. If you want to check us out, you can check us out on our YouTube page, WBSM YouTube page. You can look at us on, if you have a smart TV, you know, one of those big smart TVs, flat screen TVs, you can hook your YouTube. You probably have YouTube right there. If you have a smart TV, you got YouTube. So you can go on your smart TV, you can hook up the WBSM YouTube page and watch us broadcasting live. For all those who are doing that, we've got, what, 1, 2, Tim's in here. He's our guy on the cameras over here. How many cameras have we got, Tim? Whoops, hold on. What do we got? Whoops. There we go. Try this.
We'll have 2. What am I, 4?
I don't know why I'm not getting you on here.
I think we probably cut it off.
Yeah, I'm not sure which mic is supposed to be yours, but
Nobody wants to hear me talk.
in any event, we got a couple of cameras going anyway. Tim's running the show. The mayor's here. We should have told you to wear a tie today, Mayor. Sorry about that.
So I dressed
broadcasting
for radio,
live.
And now I'm on TV. Is that what it is?
Now you're on TV. We're going to make a star out of you. We're going to make a TV star out of you. So the mayor shows up in sleeves and no tie, and I should have told him. I've got a hooded sweatshirt on. So
good thing I didn't show up in my bathrobe.
How are you?
I'm doing well. We're just trying to solve the crime scene out behind your door. That whoever made those footprints in the brand new rug.
Yeah.
So I think it looks like it's just a left foot.
Yes.
Stepped in something.
Yeah.
And tracked it across your brand new rug.
Brand new rug. Yeah.
Ruined it.
So you're a former federal prosecutor, so do you think we can get an indictment on this?
It kind of looks like, remember those shoes in the OJ case, the Bruno Magli?
Yeah, right.
Italian? I think there may be something to it. It could be some fancy Italian shoes that made those.
If it doesn't fit, you can't commit, though.
Right.
So,
right. So
and like Cinderella, we'll have to go around and try shoes on everybody, right?
Anything. You should be able to solve this mystery.
All right. We'll
and
look
then get
into
your
that.
money back for that rug, because that's pretty bad.
You know,
do people who are
since
listening know what happened?
Well, I'm not sure if they do. I think we might have had something up on Facebook about it, but maybe Tim can run out there with a camera later and take a picture of it.
You guys bought a brand new rug and someone walked across it with like oil on their shoes and ruined the thing. It was there for what, like a matter of days or something?
Yeah, I think it was
less?
like the day it went
The day.
down. Yeah, the day it went down. And if you notice, the other rooms haven't been done yet, and we haven't seen hide nor hear of these guys. So I don't know what's going on, to be honest with you.
Maybe you didn't pay your bill, and they
Well,
just
that's
said,
a pay grade above me. So, they do the work when I'm on the air. So,
oh boy,
I'm not sure. So how's things?
Hey, things are all right.
Yeah.
All right. They're busy. There's no,
It's been a busy week.
no hitting the pause button at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot happening. We have. Oh, where do I start?
You got the lieutenant governor in town tomorrow, right?
Yeah. So, well, you have the cabinet meeting tomorrow. The governor had to bail out of it for a good reason. He is going to the funeral of Tom Hudner. I think some people might know who Tom Hudner was. Tom Hudner was a Fall River native, and now lives in has lived in the Boston area for a long time. The Boston media likes to claim him as their own, but the folks in Fall River, I think, rightly claim him as their own. But Tom Hudner died at the age of 93. He was a career naval officer and was in charge of the state's Veteran Services Agency, but he is most known for his heroics in the Korean War during the Battle of the Chosin Reservoir, which especially a lot of folks, especially Marines, will remember very well. A huge battle against the Chinese Communist forces, in which in the middle of the battle, which was in a mountain area, Tom Hudner, who was a Navy pilot, spotted another pilot, his wingman, named Jesse Brown, and Jesse Brown was a historic figure. He was the first African American fighter pilot in the United States. Jesse Brown crashed his plane on a mountaintop, and the plane was burning, and Tom Hudner was circling around at a fairly low height. And to go to his aid, Tom Hudner deliberately crash landed his plane to go aid him. And they held off, and this is in the middle of the battlefield, as it were. The Chosin Reservoir was a huge battle. And Tom Hudner tried to save Jesse Brown and failed in doing so, but his effort in going to the length of actually crashing his own plane to save his fellow airmen resulted in his being awarded the Medal of Honor. So, which was a pretty big thing, obviously back in the 50s, back in Fall River, where he was rightly treated as the hero that he was. But he was there's since been a naval vessel named in his honor and a number of other things. But so that's a long story. But that's the reason he just passed away this week. And the governor is attending his funeral, so we are having a cabinet meeting. The governor's having his cabinet meeting without the governor down at the new SMAS building, and then they're doing some public events around the city afterwards. So, so that's.
So Karen Polito sitting in for him, or will he be actually?
She was going to be there anyway, but
right.
so she'll be
standing
in
for him.
him.
Standing in. That's the proper terminology.
Standing in. So I'll give a couple of presentations to them about the trajectory of the city and how some of the good things that we've done with their administration. Working together, the SMAS building being one of them, but the work on the State Pier being another. The Cove Walk is another one. I mean, there was a good list of things, and we've had with the Baker administration a good relationship when it comes to projects. I mean, they've expected, I think rightly so, to see a demonstration from any city that state investment will pay off, will yield a return on investment in the way of jobs, in the way of economic activity. And I think with all those projects, SMAST and the Cove Walk and the State Pier and a couple of others, we've been able to demonstrate that it's money well spent. So
we got word this week the state is going to bond for a justice center here in New Bedford, and
so I want to talk about that. So I'm glad you raised that because on the show, you and I often talk and we get calls about the state legislative delegation, right? And so I understand why those calls are coming. This is an instance where I think, our local legislator, Tony Cabral, really stepped up and did something good for the city, and that deserves everybody's praise. So Tony is the chairman of the the House Bonding Committee. So the way it works, is just to step back and explain to people how capital projects, big infrastructure projects, are paid for by the state. So the legislature has to authorize the spending. So every year, the legislature will pass bonding bills that will for frankly billions of dollars of projects, many of which will never get paid for because it's left up to the governor to actually,
kind of like the rail.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that thing's been authorized time and time again. Right. And so, a lot of legislators will authorize bond funding for projects to take credit for them again and again and again. But that authorization process is important because with once those are passed, those projects are authorized by the legislature, then it's left up to the governor to select which ones actually go forward. And under state law, the governor can, and there are exceptions to this rule, but in general, the governor can select about $1 billion worth of new projects every year to go forward, whether it's bridges or roads or port facilities or whatever. So what Tony did is in his capacity used his chairmanship well. I mean, he demanded that the court facility. We in New Bedford need a new courthouse. Well,
tell everybody what the Justice Center is so they understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. So among the bond bills that come before his committee are the bond bills for the judiciary, for courthouses, right, court facilities. And New Bedford has long been overlooked as a place that sorely needs new courthouses. So our Superior Courthouse.
That's because we don't have any crime here, so we don't need courts, right?
Well, yeah.
I'm only pulling your leg.
Yeah. So, but we need new courthouses, and we've got some of the oldest in the state. And for whatever reason, the state judiciary has put New Bedford way on the back burner. Surprise, surprise. So Tony forced them to move us toward the head of the line. That's a good thing. So I think that in the next few years we'll start to pick up the talk about a new courthouse will pick up here, and that will be a good thing for the downtown because it'll go in the downtown.
So the money hasn't
somewhere.
been authorized. Basically, the legislature has put it on the wish list, and now
right.
the governor has to select projects, but this one has not yet been selected.
The bigger thing, just as big, is that he promoted a study for. Put in the bill a feasibility study for the law school the UMass Law School to be moved downtown, which is something that I've been calling for a long time. It makes no sense
Where would it go?
to be. Oh, there are a number of sites. I mean, you could put it over near the Elm Street Garage. It could go down toward Walnut Street. I mean, there are a number of places.
So we're talking about new construction.
Yeah, I mean a law school.
Or rehabbing old.
No, you'd build this new.
Okay.
But law schools should be in cities. It does. The law school itself right now, and the law school's come a long way. It's got ABA accreditation now. It's a real law school now. But it's not. It's in the wrong place.
So that's
it's off
on the
of
authorization
highway.
list as well.
It's off of the highway in North Dartmouth, and it doesn't serve it being there. It doesn't serve its students or faculty as well as it should, nor does it serve the region as well as it should. It should be in the urban core. The University of Arizona just reopened. Arizona State University, just reopened its law school and moved it off of its campus in Tempe, Arizona, plunked it right down the middle of Phoenix, because the folks in Arizona recognize that, law schools belong in cities because you're in close proximity to courts and to clients and legal clinics. So so I think if we had the University of Massachusetts Law School in the downtown, that would be a great thing. And so Tony took the first step in that direction by putting it into a feasibility study for that purpose into the bond bill. So I really wanted to.
With the study, is there dedicated funding for that study?
$500,000
for that study. That's guaranteed. So that
no, it's nothing's guaranteed.
That's on the list of the wish list, basically.
Right, but this is this is the first step in the process.
Okay, just so we understand what the process is. So that's on the wish list along with the money for
the courthouse.
Yeah,
and the governor has to decide to appropriate these things. But,
Now I know in Fall River when they built the Justice Center, they combined all the courts into one building and put it downtown. Is that what you're looking to have happen?
I think that's the trend these days to consolidate courthouses. You know, we in New Bedford have 3 in the downtown and a 4th outside the downtown. So we have, of course, the Superior Court on County Street. We have the 3rd District Court on I don't know what its exact address is. I guess it's on Kempton or Middle.
That's right,
but the yellow building over there, and then there's the probate court over on 6th Street, and then you have the housing court, which I don't even know where they're meeting now. They're meeting over by Building 19 for a while.
They're meeting at your house while they're here.
They might be, but you want to put all those things in the same building.
Sure. So where would you like to see that go?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's why we do feasibility studies, but somewhere in the downtown.
Yeah, you got to play. I mean, you sit in your office and you look out the window and say, "Boy, that'd be a nice spot for the court place to go."
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on Google Earth looking at the city. I mean, seriously,
I'll bet. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So it's a very useful tool. But as I think about it, just in my own mind, you know, some of the same places we just mentioned, somewhere over by one of the 2 parking garages makes some sense. You know, you wouldn't put it smack dab in the historic district because it would require knocking things down, which we don't want to do. And it would also, you know, in the historic district, the streets are pretty narrow, and it would be hard to put a building.
But that could open up some prime real estate downtown, right?
It could, yeah.
I mean, because where the courthouses currently exist, that's pretty good space.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I just, you know, like I said, it's the first step in the right direction for both the courthouse and the law school, and I just want to commend Tony Cabral for his work in that area.
All right, the superintendent began the first phases of her evaluation process this week by going out there and presenting her case for herself. And I'll tell you what, I wrote a blog piece yesterday on Facebook defending the superintendent, and I got murdered. And I guess Brian did a show today talking about it, and it appears as though there's not a tremendous amount of support for her. I think she's done a good job personally. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think, look, you know, we're going to be doing the evaluations shortly, so you know what I think will be made clear in writing, and that's just as it was last year at this time. So. Overall, the school department has improved. There's no doubt about it. If you look back at, you have to remind people of where it was in 2011. It was a mess. It was a mess. There was little accountability, little direction. All the systems were backward. I mean, I've talked in the past about how personnel was tracked by 3x5 cards, and you know, principals weren't being evaluated. I mean, how can you tell if the principal's performing well if there isn't a professional evaluation done? That's what school districts have been doing for decades, and we haven't been able to do that. We're unable to do that in New Bedford up until the last few years since Superintendent Durkin got on board. And there are positive trends on the scoreboard. The graduation, the 4-year graduation rate in 2011 was in the 50s. It's in the 70s now. Remember all the talk a few years ago about how high the dropout rate was and how that was such a huge drag on the city? Well, that's improved an awful lot. People forget that. And we've seen test scores across the board moving forward. We have we had a system that in 2011 was put under state monitoring before I got into office, and that's why I took very direct action to deal with it. And now, you know, just this past summer, the state said, you don't need to be monitored anymore. This is a completely different district than it was in 2011. That's a direct quote. So it's not to say that the work is done, but there's been a great deal of progress. I mean, as we look ahead, you know, the very rapid changes that have happened we have to understand that now this foundation is laid. The approach now is to start to really build a culture in the school system, which means that everybody has to feel as though they have a role to play, they have value to add, and that they're being supported. And so, you know, there's, you know, I get the hue and cry about, well, you know, the superintendent should be fired, the superintendent this, the superintendent that. You know, she's going to be evaluated like everybody else, and you know, we've had we've had a superintendent in place now for more years than we've had
See,
previous.
I don't get that. You said you get the human cry. I don't get that. I don't understand. I mean, you're sitting here laying out what I laid out in my blog yesterday, a track record of success under the superintendent, but yet for some reason she seems to be a lightning rod with people out there who just don't seem to like her at all. I understand there are at least 3 votes on the school committee that are opposed to re-upping Dr. Durkin. I just don't get it. I don't get I don't understand it. Do you?
Well, I do. I mean, I do get that. Look, her job is not on the one hand, it's not a popularity contest, right? This was a very troubled school system that is, now has gained some traction and is certainly moving in the right direction. I think it'd be hard pressed to say that it isn't. On the other hand, we do need to, in the long run, fly the plane on our own. That means the community needs to feel like it's part of the school system, that its voices are heard, and how that's done is an open question. I mean, the approach over the last few years may not be the right one in the next few years. We have to see, but I think, we'll take a look at the evaluations after they're done. I want to respect the process. I think anybody who, would become superintendent here would expect that, including Dr. Durkin and anybody else who follows whenever that happens, would expect that the school committee would be faithful to the established evaluation process, and I'm committed to that.
Do you fill out not an application, but a review?
I do, and it's in my reviews over the years. I've spent time on them, and they've been. I'd like to think thorough. They haven't always been reviewed by the media. Like last year, there was not a single story about my evaluation of her, even though it's a public document, and people certainly could have had an opportunity to cover it. But I suspect this year there's probably more attention being paid to such things.
Was it released to us? Was it sent to us? Maybe
nobody asked for it.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know you filled one out because I thought maybe as the mayor you didn't. But I'd love to get a copy if you when you fill it out. If you happen to bring it with you on a Wednesday, or have Jonathan email it to me or send it over, I'd love to.
Sure. I mean, the next one, the one that we're about to do,
the one that you're working on now, yeah.
I haven't started working on it. I'm like one of these guys who waits till the last minute
what are you waiting for? Let's go.
I'm one of these people who who's a student, waited till the last minute to do my homework.
So, are you inclined to want to keep Dr. Durkin, or do you think it's time to go in a different direction?
Well, she's got 1.5 years left on her contract.
But you got to let her know by next year, right? Whether or not we have an intention to.
So next year we'll make that determination.
Yeah. Are you happy with the direction we're going in?
There are some things I'm happy about, and some things that I think we need to work on. I think the quality of the instruction in the school system has greatly improved. I think that the systems in the front office and the back office, I should say, have greatly improved. There is a greater command of the budget now and greater transparency. The same can be said for the personnel department. There are systems in place that work. It's a big organization, 2,000 employees and 13,000 students. It can't be run a 1950s style management, 1950s management style as it was not too long ago. It has to be modern and run well so people understand where their money is going. So I also think that the superintendent excels in many of the technical aspects of superintendency. Just knowing what good instruction looks like, knowing how to clearly communicate expectations to principals, knowing how money ought to be spent in the school district. These are all things that I think she brings to the table. I mean, as for anybody who's been in school committees knows too, that I think there's got to be, at the end of the day, the school system, and I mean this very strongly, the school system has to be a reason why people either stay in the city or move to the city. I mean, that ultimately is the question, and that is something I think we need to work on. I also would say this, that many
But that's more of a PR thing, right? I mean, everything you're laying out for me is a perfect case for why the system is good and it's improving, and it's a good reason to put your kids in there. So that's more of a PR thing. You got to let people know about the system. What areas do you specifically have issue with that you'd like to see get better?
Well, the PR isn't just PR in the sense that it's just an exercise in putting commercials on WBSM, and that's
We'll
that'll
keep doing
attract
that.
people.
Yeah.
We'll keep
Yeah.
keep doing that, of course. So I think we do need some work on facilities. We do need some work on things like the way the budget is formulated. I think it's overly contentious, and it need not be. There's nobody. I think my commitment to funding the school system as much as the city can afford is something that I've demonstrated in my time as mayor. My job is when it comes to the school system is balancing what the city can afford with what the school system needs, and that's not always a careful balancing, but I certainly recognize the need to invest in the school system, and I don't think that the budget has always been the formulation of the school budget has been far more contentious than it should. There are needs in facilities that need greater attention. I mean, there are a handful of things, but look, this will all be spelled out in the evaluation, and you'll get a chance to look at it.
All right, let me take a break. We'll be back with the mayor, 508-996-0500. If you want to comment on this or any of the other topics we've got out there, give us a call, 508-996-0500. Got a few other things to come up as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back. And welcome back. It's Midweek with the Mayor, Mayor Jon Mitchell in studio. And you can, in addition to listening to our lovely tones here, you can also watch us today. We're on YouTube. If you go to the WBSM YouTube page or go to your smart TV. You got a smart TV at home? Is your TV fairly smart, or
I think it's pretty smart.
pretty smart? Yeah. Well, you can get YouTube.
It's
on
big. You know, I bought a brand new TV just before the AFC Championship game last year.
Okay.
I really love it.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you how big, and I'm not going to tell you how much I splurged on it. And then as far as whether it's smart or not, I guess it's not a dumb TV.
Well, I mean, I can talk to my TV, and it does things for me. Like I can, say, put this channel on or put that channel on, and it does it. So, I mean, my TV's pretty smart. And it has to be because I don't know anything about it.
You ever try to interview your TV like you do here?
Yeah, and it shuts off. So. All right, let's get to the phones. 508-996-0500, and you are first on the air with Mayor Mitchell. Go ahead.
Hi, is it me? I'm just curious, if you're going to have this new criminal justice center, what's going to happen to the existing courthouses? Are they all going to be emptied, or what's going to happen to them? Sold, or what are they going to do, destroy them?
I hope they don't destroy them. I don't know. I mean, this is, this isn't going to happen for a few years. So
now, tell me one thing. Does it include the Superior Court too?
It probably would. I mean, so if you look
that's county. Even though the others are the others county, or are they both city?
So the way this is happening, there's so much planning that needs to be done.
No, I understand,
but
All right, hold on, ma'am. Let him answer your question. You've interrupted him 3 times. Let him answer you.
Answering.
All right, hold on. Let him answer you. Go ahead.
So the answer is there's a lot to be planned. So that includes what a new courthouse would consist of. Would it involve the consolidation of all of the existing courthouses or some of them? It would include where it would go, what it would look like, how much it would cost, and then ultimately what would happen to the old courthouses. I don't want to see the old courthouses knocked down, for one. I can see how they might be reused readily for other important functions. So, that's all to be determined, and not, by me just sitting here. All I know is that we need investment in courthouses here in the city because we have very old courthouses, and I wanted to point out the good work that Representative Cabral
and
did.
And this is all in the infancy phase of the whole thing. I mean, they haven't even authorized yet the borrowing of the money. I mean, the governor's going to decide that he wants to spend the money. So, I mean, we're still a ways on this. Could be a few years.
I think.
But see, it gives us one more thing that we can talk about, and we can tell people to email the governor and text the governor and all that stuff. Sure, say fight for the money for the courthouses.
Yep.
Thanks for your call, ma'am. Appreciate it. You're next on WBSM with the mayor. Go ahead.
Hello, Barry. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Ma'am Mitchell, me and you got to talk. Please help. Our grandchild has at Nativity Prep Night orientation. We need a letter of recommendation from you. Can you do it?
I'd be happy to help you, Donna. Well, why don't you just call the office and we can see what we can do.
All right.
All right, give him a call over at the office and we'll work that out. You're next on WBSM. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. I just I'm looking for what you think about the state police stepping down the 2 top dogs. But if you drive down the road and you say something to somebody because they cut you off, you get a ticket and you go to jail immediately. And doesn't that seem like an unfair justice system? We got 2 top state police people stepping down because of alleged improprieties, and they're doing the honorable thing. But you drive down the road, you say something to somebody, and you get a ticket, you go to jail right away. Does that seem fair, Mr. Mayor?
I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about, and the mayor's kind of looking at me like he's not sure either.
Well, his call is breaking up. So
your call is breaking up a lot.
I can't hear him, but I think what he's referring to is that the commander of the state police stepped down. Amid allegations that he was somehow responsible for changing a police report that involved a child of a judge.
But that had nothing to do with New Bedford or us.
No, I think it took place, somewhere in the Worcester area.
So I'm not quite sure why it's coming up as an issue or what the connection is.
Well, if he's asking my opinion, I mean, he can ask me my opinion about anything, whether I like chocolate or vanilla ice cream, which I like better. But my opinion is no. Look, I mean, if the state police certainly should hold itself to high standards, and if those standards aren't being met, then somebody should be held accountable.
All right, appreciate your call, my friend. Your phone was breaking up a lot on us. So the governor has unveiled his CARE Act, next step in the opioid crisis, and a couple of big things in there. One, he would like to see the federal government give us the authority to sell Narcan over the counter. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Unless a medical expert says no, not a good idea, then then I think we should do it. It's really a question of safety. I don't think Narcan has any. I mean, to my mind, I'm no expert. All I know is that Narcan has saved a lot of lives, and that we put Narcan in the hands of our first responders. New Bedford was one of the first communities to do that, and that's something that I'm committed to. And if there are places to where we can also put Narcan that will allow more lives to be saved, we should do that. Whether we should go so far as to make it an over-the-counter drug is, I would rely on expert medical advice to really form an opinion about that. But as far as I can tell, there probably is no issue. But I'd like to get to know a little bit more about it.
I don't know. Something about it just makes me wonder whether it makes a lot of sense to put it on shelves where it becomes so easily available to folks. I mean, it kind of.
Well, I mean, if your point is
now, right?
Well, but I mean, if your point is that it'll be sold, so I think one argument might be that addicts might it might promote addiction because addicts could buy it and then have like a backup plan, right? If I'm ODing, so
get a 6-pack of Narcan, toss it in the cupboard at home. We're covered.
Right. So it's like buying a fifth of whiskey and then buying aspirin for the hangover later, right? So you might actually promote use. I mean that's a loose analogy, but I think that's probably what opponents will suggest. I don't know. I mean, again, I think that's just something that a policy decision that could be better informed by expert opinion.
Another big part of what the governor is proposing is revisiting the 2015. It was either 15 or 16. I think it was 15. When he wanted the 72-day lockup or incarceration or hospitalization against a person's will, actually, if an emergency room doctor felt that this person had an issue, maybe had an overdose or whatever in the emergency room, we can hold you for 72 hours. Now, the legislature defeated that. One big reason was we don't have the bed space anywhere. The hospitals, well, this is fine, but where we're going to put everybody?
Well, I think there was some civil liberties concerns.
Well, that was the other point of it. This is civil liberties concern. They're big time.
Yeah. So I tend to think it's a good idea. The hospitals can make the judgment about whether there's available bed space, and but at least if they have the option, they can keep people from walking out the emergency room door and going and buying more heroin and overdosing yet again. I mean, there are a lot of folks who do that. We also know that people who overdose are most willing to seek treatment in the wake of an overdose. Right? In other words, there's a window of opportunity when people say, geez, you know what, I can't let this happen again. I've got to go seek treatment. And if they're in the hospital, then there will be people around, physicians as well as other support employees who can point them in the right direction and get them into services.
But the folks, I can remember talking to experts back then that 72 hours really isn't a long enough period of time. I mean, you're really just basically getting into the detox point with that person.
Oh no, it's not that. We won't do it for that. The idea is you don't want them to go right back out and do it again. We've had that happen plenty of times. When someone goes into the emergency room with overdosing and is administered Narcan and then goes right back out and does it again. The goal of that, the goal would be for those folks that it would be that if you can hold them just for a little while, you can talk some sense into them about their need for treatment. I think most experts would tell you that in the hours and day or so after an overdose is when people are most willing to get themselves on track.
What about the civil liberties aspect of that? You're a lawyer.
I'm not too concerned about that. I mean, I think in many of these instances, it's a question of life or death, and that 72 hours isn't all that long. That's 3 days.
To hold somebody against their will, though.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be maybe a family aspect to this, where maybe the family can agree to commit somebody, or that?
Yeah,
type of thing,
I mean,
as opposed to just saying we're
well,
going to take and lock you up.
Yeah, I think it's my understanding is that it would authorize the holding of somebody up to 72 hours, so it would be
or possibly longer, if the clinicians feel that it's necessary. They could under this piece.
Yeah, I get multiple. Maybe we have a different understanding of the legislation. I thought it was up to 72 hours.
Yeah, or longer if they feel that it's necessary. They can ship them off to an institution or hospital, a treatment facility somewhere, and hold them longer than that if they deem it necessary.
So folks, that's always, so just so people understand, there are in every state, the local government, state government have the authority to civilly commit somebody with court authorization, right? You need to go to court to do that, to civilly commit somebody who's mentally ill, who poses a danger to himself or to others, and that's the standard generally. And so I guess that really is going to be the civil liberty question, whether somebody is, and it may vary. I mean, not everybody who's having an overdose might fit that constitutional standard, but if somebody's posing a risk to himself, or is found to pose a risk to himself or herself or to others, then a civil commitment is probably the only way to go to save a life.
All right, let me take the break. We got a bunch of calls, so we're going to come right back for your call. Stay right there. More Midweek with the Mayor right after this on WBSM. All right, 508-996-0500. Quickly, before we get back to the phones, had a young New Bedford man shot by police in Fall River. You satisfied with what you're hearing from Fall River and the circumstances around that?
Well, we're looking into it. I want to make sure that we're doing whatever is necessary to support the family. My office is reaching out to the family, and it's just what they're going through is awful. The kids, whatever was going on, the reality is that the kid was 19 years old and left behind a fiance and who was expecting, and a distraught family, which is awful. So I have confidence that the district attorney is going to get down to brass tacks and find out exactly what happened. But I want to be there for that New Bedford family, because I know they've got to be hurting right now. It's got to be really tough.
All right, 508-996-0500. You're on the air with the mayor. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, you're on.
Hi. I was just going back to the opiate issue that you guys were just discussing.
Yep, go ahead.
And I'm wondering, the state of Massachusetts does have a process to help out individuals, a treatment system starting with detox. So given that New Bedford really is such a hotbed for the overdoses, doesn't it make sense to work with perhaps St. Luke's, High Point, or even South Coast to try to have a detox, which is an ATS, acute treatment services, for these guys that are showing up in the hospital, take them from the hospital bed, offer them a detox right there instead of putting them out to the street. I know this is not a magic door. Personally, I get it. I understand. But doesn't it make sense to work with the local service agencies? Because I don't understand why we don't have a detox, because the state does go ATS, which is acute treatment services, to CSS, to TSS, which are step downs, putting people ultimately into sober house and recovery.
So what about a detox, Mayor? I know back years ago we used to have one down with the old SMTI building down on Purchase Street. Now we don't have one any longer. Would that be beneficial, do you think?
Well, I think some people could benefit from it, but as with anything else, it would have to be in the right place. Putting it in the downtown or putting it in the middle of neighborhoods would cause other problems, and that's something we have to be sensitive about. I think the caller brings up there are a couple of points she made. One is the very point about detox. I think there is a need for detox in the city. It's just really a question of whether it should be in the city or be out in some remote area. I noticed that the other day that there's some discussion about putting detox facilities on Penakees Island, which is, I think, I'm not saying I'm for or against that, but I think that's probably something that should be looked into.
Taunton State Hospital. There's still quite a bit of that's closed down, right?
Right. So that's another place that's fairly remote. In addition, but she also mentioned coordination, and the coordination is very important. That's why we have an opioid task force that's been in place for a couple of years now. That involves that consists of city government as well as South Coast Health, the New Bedford Community Health Center, and many other providers, Seven Hills, right down the line. And that's why that's there. And if there are ways that we can improve coordination, we should be all over it.
Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, right. Just regarding the. I don't know that detox has to be remote like that, because ATS is the detox part where they do their 7 to 10 days. Like, STAR has a triage unit, a walk-in facility for folks that they go right into treatment. And I think that's crucial when there's that overdose that occurs, not just to say, oh, if you feel like getting better, come back, but offer them detox at that point. I thought South Coast Health was going to have a facility up near Dartmouth Mall, and I haven't heard anything about that. So I just don't think that it needs to be remote. It can be somewhere else. We do have High Point Women's Addiction Treatment Center, which is the Section 35, but a voluntary detox, I think, would benefit some people in this area.
All right, let me hold you there because we're running out of time. Give the mayor last word on that. Anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think the facility out on Fonts Corner Road that she refers to is focused primarily on mental health issues, not necessarily substance abuse issues. That facility does exist now. It's been built and it exists. Yeah.
I thought that it was going to deal to some degree with substance too, but apparently not.
It appears not to. I thought so as well, but and maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think I am.
We're out of time. Can't believe it.
Just like that. That hour goes by so fast, Barry. I forgot. My absence, I forgot.
Are you running in 2019?
Are you running 2019? Is Walmart coming?
Walmart open. When's the groundbreaking for Walmart?
I'll keep running until we open Walmart just for you.
Still no news on that?
No.
I was hoping to start my Christmas shopping this weekend.
You're gonna have to go to Amazon now, I guess.
All right, Mayor, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Barry.
All right, we'll see you next week. Mayor Jon Mitchell with us. We're going to come back, take your calls on a whole lot of issues and update you on Judge Moore and all kinds of stuff. So stay with us. Lots of fun to be had yet. You're listening to 1420 WBSM New Bedford. News is next.